My name is Adrian Kessler, and I was born in a remote community in northern Yukon, a place where the winter air stayed so dry your breath felt like it cracked on the way out. I'm 32 now, long gone from that stretch of spruce and ice, but there's a particular memory that's been tugging at me these past few months. I never used to talk about it, not out of fear, but because it always made me feel vaguely ridiculous. It wasn't a ghost story or a curse or anything you'd expect from someone who grew up in the Arctic shadows. It was just a TV show. A strange one. One that aired only once a year, always on the same day, always on the same tiny local station that otherwise played nothing but weather bulletins and community announcements. I used to think it was just me who remembered it, the annual broadcast with no title card, no credits, and no pattern in its content. But earlier this morning, when I woke to the sound of my phone vibrating nonstop with messages from friends I hadn't spoken to in a decade, I realized it wasn't just me. They remembered too. And for the first time since childhood, today is the day it aired. The show only came on January 18th. Every year. Exactly at 4 p.m. The signal would appear out of nowhere, cutting in over the regular station, and for 1 hour, something completely unpredictable played. Some years it was static with faint murmuring behind it. Other years it was grainy footage of landscapes none of us recognized. Tundra plains but not ours, forests too thick to be anywhere near us, highways with signs in languages no one could name. And twice, only twice, the show featured a person. Once it was a man speaking quietly in a language no one understood, his voice low, steady, too calm. The other time, which I remember more clearly than anything else from my childhood, it was a child. A little girl sitting in a dimly lit room, staring straight at the camera, her face frozen in an expression that wasn't quite fear and wasn't quite sadness. It was something in between, something brittle. I can still picture the exact angle of her head, the way her hair fell unevenly over her shoulders, as though someone had hacked at it with scissors. She didn't move the entire 30 minutes she was on screen. Then the broadcast cut without warning, replaced by the regular community station again, mid-sentence, like it had never been interrupted. My mother always brushed it off. "Northern signals are weird," she'd say, shrugging, though anyone who lived up there knew that wasn't true. Our station barely worked on clear days, and it certainly didn't have the capability to hijack itself for an hour with content none of the staff claimed responsibility for. My father, who'd grown up even farther north than we lived, never denied it but never talked about it. Whenever January 18th approached, he grew quiet, tense in a way I never saw him any other time of year. The last time I saw the show, I was 15. That was the year it didn't play at 4 p.m. The whole community had gathered around TVs in homes and the school common room, expecting the usual glitchy flicker. But 4 o'clock came and went. Then 4:05. Then 4:10. Nothing. People shrugged it off and drifted back to their lives, but I stayed behind, sitting cross-legged on the cold linoleum floor of the school, staring at the dusty old television on the metal cart. I wasn't expecting anything. I was just being weirdly nostalgic, I guess. Then, at 4:23 p.m., the screen blinked. Then again. Then the signal cut in. It was the same girl. But she wasn't sitting this time. She was standing close to the camera, so close that the grainy image struggled to focus. Her face was older. I saw that immediately, not by much, maybe a year or two. But her eyes were different. When she'd appeared the first time, she'd looked distant, detached. This time she looked alert. She blinked often, her gaze shifting slightly, as if following something behind the camera. I remember leaning closer, my nose nearly touching the screen, trying to make out details in the dim background. There was still that same weak lamp glow, still that same cramped room, but her clothing was different. She wore a dark sweater, sleeves pulled over her hands. Then she moved, the smallest movement, just an inch, but it startled me so intensely I jerked back. Her mouth opened slightly, like she was about to speak, but instead, the broadcast crackled, distorted, and a faint sound leaked through. Not words. A sharp exhale. Then another. Like she was trying to say something but either couldn't or wasn't allowed to. I remember whispering, "What is happening to you?" to the empty room without thinking. She froze. Completely. Her chest stopped rising. Her head tilted the tiniest amount, angled toward the camera again, and for the first time, I had the overwhelming sensation that she could see me. Not in the metaphorical sense. I mean, she looked into that camera like she was looking through glass directly at me. And then, so quietly I almost thought I imagined it, she mouthed a word. One word. Today. The broadcast cut instantly. That was 15 years ago. I never saw the show again. The next year the station didn't flicker once. The year after that, the station shut down entirely. Life moved on. I left the Yukon, went to university, got a job in Calgary, and only occasionally thought about the strange girl on the screen and the chilling clarity of that final moment. This morning, my phone buzzed at 7:12 a.m. A message from my childhood friend, Riley, who I hadn't spoken to since we were 18. It said, "Adrian, turn on the station. It's happening today." And today is January 18th. I didn't turn on the TV right away. I just sat there on the edge of my bed, staring at Riley's message, feeling that weird hollow pressure building behind my ribs. Not quite fear, not quite anticipatory dread, but something close. When you grow up in the North, you get used to strange things happening, but you don't expect them to follow you thousands of miles south 15 years later. I typed back, "There is no station anymore." Before I could even put the phone down, he replied, "Just check. Channel is dead but signal comes through." It sounded ridiculous, but so did the broadcast itself, and I knew Riley well enough to understand he wasn't playing around. The guy never joked about anything related to our childhood up north. Especially not January 18th. I walked into my living room, turned on the old TV I barely used, and flipped to the channel that used to be the Yukon Community Station. Static. I waited, the room silent except for the faint crackle of the screen and the hum of my fridge. I almost messaged Riley to tell him nothing was happening, but then I noticed something off. The static was moving wrong. Instead of the usual randomized flicker, it pulsed in soft rhythmic patterns, almost like someone was dragging a fingertip across an old antenna feed. Then the screen went black. Not blank, but the kind of black you get when something is actively transmitting but showing nothing. I stepped closer without meaning to. A faint line of text appeared at the bottom, barely visible in dim gray. Signal detected. Then the screen cut out completely. It didn't go back to static. It didn't flicker. It didn't behave like a normal broken signal. It just turned off as though someone had manually powered down that one channel. Before I could process it, my phone buzzed again. A new message from Riley. "It's starting in my parents' place." Exact same black screen. "Did yours do that?" I wrote back, "Yes. But that's all." He responded almost instantly. "Wait." I stood there, hands half raised, not sure whether I was supposed to sit, turn the TV off, or just keep staring. But the screen didn't turn on again. No signal. No flash. No noise. Just black. Then, clear and sharp, my phone rang. Riley. His voice hit me before I could even say hello. "You're not alone down there, right?" "No. But don't watch it alone. Seriously." His breaths were uneven, too fast. "It just started here. The room is different this time. Not the same lamp. Not the same background. Looks, I don't know. Cleaner? And she's older again." My skin prickled. "How old?" "Not a kid anymore," he said. "Late teens maybe. And she's not sitting. She's walking around." like pacing. A wave of instinctive tension crawled down my spine. Is she talking? No. But she looks. He hesitated. I heard his footsteps moving across his parents' living room and the creak of their old couch. She looks like she's listening to someone. Someone off-screen? I think so. She keeps turning her head like someone is giving her instructions. Then, more quietly, Darian, she looks terrified. I pressed my palm to my forehead. Everything about this was wrong. The broadcast had always been distant, passive, weird but detached. This sounded different, directed, intentional. What time did it start? I asked. Exactly 4 p.m., he said. Just like always. I looked at the clock on my wall. 3:04 p.m. I'd completely forgotten the time difference. It would start here in less than an hour. My pulse kicked up, a steady throb against the side of my neck. Riley recorded. Don't get too close to the TV. Just record it so I... He cut me off. Tried. The recording app crashes every time I open it, and my old camera won't turn on. Then take a picture. Doesn't work either. His voice dropped to a whisper. It's like the signal blocks everything. I opened my mouth to ask something, anything, but he spoke again, voice now trembling. She just stopped walking. I gripped the back of my couch. What is she doing now? She's standing really close to the camera. It's grainy, but hold on. I heard a thump through the speaker, like he'd dropped the phone. Then the faint sound of him scrambling. Riley, I said sharply. Riley, talk to me. I'm here, he panted. I'm fine. But Adrian, she leaned in. Way closer than before. And she mouthed something. A cold pinch tightened in my stomach. What did she say? I couldn't tell at first, he said. But then she said it again, slower. I waited. She said your name. For a second, the world felt strangely quiet. No hum of the fridge. No traffic outside. Just silence pressing in around me. My name. I finally said. Are you sure? Yes, he whispered. Absolutely. I sat down hard on the edge of my coffee table. My hands felt shaky in a way I hadn't experienced since I was a kid. There was no reason, none, for her to know anything about me. She wasn't real. Or she wasn't live. Or she wasn't whatever she was supposed to be. But Riley was not the type to hallucinate, not the type to screw with me, and definitely not the type to misread lips. The guy had the patience of a stone. Describe exactly how she said it, I managed. She didn't speak, he said. She mouthed it, like before, but clear. She said, Adrian. Twice. I swallowed hard. My apartment suddenly felt too small, too still. I stood and locked the door without thinking. Adrian, Riley said again, voice strained, I don't think this is a broadcast. Not anymore. I think she's... His words were cut off by a sharp rustling sound, like the phone brushed against fabric. Then a faint, brittle noise filtered through. Someone whispering. Not Riley. I froze. It wasn't the girl's voice. It wasn't a child or a teenager. It was something older. Feminine but clipped. Controlled. I heard a single word, muffled, barely audible. Not a name. A command. Look. Then the line went dead. My TV turned on by itself. The TV didn't ease into life. It snapped on, full brightness. The screen washed in that black transmission signal again. Not pure dark, but the slight, uneven glow of an active screen trying to display nothing. My heart kicked so hard I felt it in my throat. I didn't move. I didn't even breathe for a moment. The apartment felt colder, the air strangely heavier. I took one cautious step closer. The screen flickered. Just once. A quick, sharp pulse of pale white, like a strobe flash. Then the image faded in. slow, like someone sliding a dimmer up. For a moment, everything on the screen was out of focus, just smudges of shadow and light. Then the background sharpened into a cramped room with concrete walls. A bare bulb hung from the ceiling. The camera angle was slightly tilted, as though it wasn't secured properly. And then the figure stepped into view. The girl again. Only older. Older than Riley described. Older than the last time I'd seen her. She looked about 20 now. Her face was gaunt in a way that wasn't unhealthy so much as unprotected, like life had carved out the softness and left sharp lines behind. Her hair was shorter, uneven, freshly cut or torn. She wore a gray sweater with sleeves that swallowed her wrists and dark pants that looked too big for her. The same dim bulb cast her in that same sickly light that had haunted my memory for years. She walked forward until she stood barely a foot from the camera. And she looked directly into it. Directly at me. My knees felt weak, and I realized I'd braced one hand against the wall without noticing. The TV's volume was low, just a faint hum of ambient static, but I heard something mixed in underneath, soft scraping, like metal against concrete. She opened her mouth. Slowly, carefully. But instead of speaking, she lifted one hand and pointed at something off-screen. Her movement was stiff, mechanical almost, but not unnatural. More like fear had condensed her into something rigid. I whispered, "What do you want?" even though I knew she couldn't hear me, or shouldn't. As if responding to my voice, she turned her head sharply toward the right, toward whatever she'd been pointing at. I leaned forward a little, trying to glimpse something in the edges of the frame. But the camera was locked on her. Whoever positioned it wanted only her. The scraping sound grew louder. She flinched at it. Actually flinched. Then she stepped closer, so close that her face blurred into pixels. For a moment I saw nothing but her eyes filling the screen. They weren't wide with fear. They were steady, focused. She looked like someone trying to warn me of something she wasn't allowed to say. Then she mouthed a single word. Not today, like before. A different one. Run. My breath caught in my throat. I felt my pulse in my fingertips. But I stayed where I was, frozen, because everything in me needed to understand what the hell this was before I moved an inch. The screen flickered violently, not glitching, more like the feed was being jostled. The girl stepped back, head snapping toward the right again. Something clanged against metal, loud enough to make the TV speakers rattle. Then I heard movement. Not from the TV. From inside my apartment. A soft creak, like someone shifting weight on floorboards. My floor is concrete with vinyl over it. It doesn't creak. But the sound was unmistakable. A footstep, slow and deliberate, from somewhere behind me. I forced myself to turn, though every instinct screamed not to. Nothing stood in the living room. The door remained locked. The windows were still closed. The room was empty. But the sound had been real. I turned back toward the TV. The girl was pressed against the far wall of the room in the broadcast now, half hidden in shadow, staring intensely toward something off-screen. Her chest rose and fell faster now. She mouthed another word, 2 syllables, but I couldn't make them out. The scraping turned into a dragging. Something heavy across cement. The girl's eyes widened. First sign of fear she'd shown. Then the TV cut to static. No warning. No distortion. Just an explosion of white-black noise swallowing the image. I stumbled backward. My hand hit the coffee table, knocking over a mug. It hit the floor and shattered, but even that sharp crack couldn't pull my focus from the screen. The static wasn't normal static. It pulsed in slow, deliberate waves, like breath. I grabbed the remote and hit the power button. Nothing. I yanked the plug from the wall. The TV stayed on. The static shifted. Shapes formed. Not clear ones, but dark silhouettes pressed behind noise. Wide-shouldered. motionless, like someone standing just far enough behind fog glass that you could only guess their outline. The air in my apartment felt electric, like the pressure before lightning hits. I stepped back until my spine hit the wall. Then the static sharpened. A new image slid into focus. Not the girl, not the room, something else. It was a hallway, narrow, concrete. The camera was moving, slow and steady, as if someone was walking with it mounted on their chest. The lens was smeared, distorting the edges, but the center remained clear enough to see the long stretch of walls and the bare industrial lights above. The hallway looked real, not staged, not artificial, too real. My mouth was dry, my palms slick, because I'd been in a place just like it, under the old geology department at the university where I worked for a year. The maintenance level had the same exposed pipes, the same industrial bulbs, the same moisture stains. I hadn't thought about those tunnels in years. The camera stopped at a door. A massive metal door with peeling white paint. Numbers stenciled on it in black. 12B. The scraping I'd heard earlier echoed through the speakers one more time. Then the feed cut again, this time to a bright white screen. Centered in that white field, typed in simple black letters, was a message. Not for an audience. Not for the North. Not for anyone else. Adrian Kessler, 4 p.m. I looked at the clock. 3:59. When the clock hit 4 p.m., the white screen didn't change immediately. It just stayed there, glowing too brightly, washing the room in a flat, clinical light that made everything feel off. I stared at my own name on the screen like it didn't belong to me. I wasn't scared in the jumpy, panicked way. It was deeper, quieter, the kind of fear that clamps down on your lungs and waits. Then the white faded to gray, then to black. Then the camera feed snapped back on again, but this time it wasn't the girl, or that concrete room, or the hallway with the 12B door. It was a live feed. I knew instantly, because the angle was exactly level with my chest height, and the lighting matched my apartment almost perfectly. It was my front door. A live shot of it, from inside my apartment. I stumbled back, adrenaline washing cold through my limbs. The camera was positioned behind me, somewhere behind me, but when I spun around, there was no device, no phone, no drone, no anything. Just the quiet, empty air of my living room. But the TV was showing my door. And it wasn't an old recording. I could see the faint sway of the coat hanging on my wall hook, moving exactly in sync with the air current I could feel. I stared at the screen again, watching the door, watching for movement, for any sign of someone standing just outside. Nothing. No shadow. No sound. No movement of the handle. Then the camera feed started moving. It didn't walk like a person holding a phone. Too smooth. It glided. Slowly. Quietly. Closer to the door. Each inch of forward motion made my skin feel too tight, like I was shrinking inside my own body. I pressed a hand against my chest to steady myself. The feed stopped about a foot from the door. I saw the deadbolt. I saw the chain. On the TV, the camera tilted downward slightly, focusing on the crack between the door and the floor, a thin, dark slit of space no more than a quarter inch. The screen went totally silent. Then, on the TV only, not in the room, something brushed against the other side of the crack. Just the faintest shadow. A shift. Something moving just out of view. I stepped backward, throat drying out instantly. "No," I whispered. "No, no, no." On screen, the shadow dragged across the crack again. Slow. Deliberate. Like someone crawling on the floor outside my apartment. I wanted to call someone. Anyone. But my phone was still dead from Riley's call, black screen, unresponsive. I didn't have a landline anymore. Even my laptop was in my bedroom, lid closed, 2 rooms away, and I couldn't convince my legs to take a single step in that direction. A soft tap sounded on the TV speakers. Not in my apartment. Not at the door. Just in the broadcast. Then another. 3 slow knocks on the other side of the door I was staring at. But in the room around me, the door stayed completely silent. No knock. No sound. The broadcast knocks echoed in my apartment like they were meant only for me, not the physical world. The camera on the TV slowly tilted upward again, centering the door handle. I didn't move. Not a muscle. The handle twitched. Then again. The metal shifting back and forth no more than a millimeter. Enough to see. Enough to know someone was holding it on the other side. But in real life, in my actual apartment, the door handle didn't move at all. I couldn't wrap my head around it. The broadcast wasn't showing reality, it was showing a version of it. A mirror. A warning. The threat. I didn't know. The handle on the TV turned sharply. My real handle stayed still. The deadbolt on the TV slid open. My real deadbolt stayed locked. The chain unlatched. My chain didn't move. The door on the TV swung open silently. My actual door remained closed, motionless. Cold sweat trickled down my back. I felt weightless, like I'd dissociated from the room around me and was watching myself watching the screen. On the TV, the view tilted downward again. Footsteps appeared first. Bare feet. Dirty. The girl stepped into my apartment on the screen. But not the 20-year-old I'd just seen in the broadcast. This was the younger version. The one from my childhood, the one with uneven hair, the one who'd stared at the camera with that brittle, frozen expression. She stepped over the threshold and into the apartment displayed on the TV. Into my living room. I staggered back, bumping into the wall, unable to take my eyes off the screen. Her movements were slow, careful, as though each step hurt her. She kept her hands close to her chest, fists half-formed, shoulders raised. She lifted her gaze toward the camera, toward me, and mouthed something again. Not run. Not today. One word. Stop. My heart hammered hard enough that the inside of my chest vibrated. On the TV, she lifted one hand and pointed behind her. Into the hallway. Something moved there. Just out of frame. Something taller than the door frame. The static swallowed the image instantly, crackling hard, the speakers popping. The screen went black. No flicker. No fade. Just black. And then, on the black screen, white letters appeared, sharp and clean. Do not open your door. My breath hitched, and I instinctively glanced toward the real door in my apartment. Still closed. Still silent. Still locked. A soft knock. Not from the TV. From my door. 3 slow taps. Exactly like the broadcast. The knock was soft enough that I questioned whether I'd actually heard it, but it wasn't the kind of sound your brain invents. It had a rhythm, a weight, a presence behind it. I froze mid-breath, every muscle locked so tightly my ribs hurt. For a moment, nothing else moved. Not the air, not the room, not even the hum of electricity. 3 more, each spaced out as if whoever, or whatever, stood behind my door wasn't trying to get in. Just trying to confirm it was there. My heart climbed into my throat, beating so hard I couldn't swallow. The TV stayed black, the warning still glowing in front of me. Do not open your door. I didn't need to be told twice. But I also couldn't stay where I was. I backed up slowly, step after careful step, until my calves brushed the couch. Then the knocking changed. Not louder, just closer. A soft scraping noise trailed along the wood, moving downward, as if fingers were sliding over the door. I saw the faintest pressure mark in the lower corner. A shift in light, not enough to count as movement, but enough to know something was pressing lightly against the other side. My breath came out in a shaky whisper. Riley. I realized suddenly, painfully, I needed to try calling him again. I staggered to the table where my phone lay face down, screen dead from earlier. When I picked it up, it vibrated in my hand. The screen lit up. One new message. From Riley. I swallowed hard and opened it. A single sentence. Whatever you do, don't make a sound. Before I could even process those words, another knock came, this one not on the door, but on the wall beside it. Higher up, a quick, testing tap, like something was mapping out the apartment from the outside. Another text appeared instantly on my screen. It's not her. My fingers trembled. I pressed my back to the couch and crouched down slowly until I was halfway hidden below the TV stand. My pulse thudded loud in my ears, and I pressed a hand to my mouth to quiet my own breathing. On the other side of the wall, the tapping moved sideways, slow, dragging, patient. Not frantic, not chaotic, more like whoever was out there had time. Endless, steady time. My phone buzzed again. It's looking for you. A sudden, sharp pressure hit the door. Not a slam, but a single heavy shove, hard enough to make the frame quiver. The deadbolt held, but the wood let out a strained creak. I bit down hard on my own tongue to stop myself from gasping. Another shove. Another creak. Then silence again. The pattern chilled me more than the force. It wasn't trying to break in. It was testing the door. Testing me. My TV flicked back on. The black screen vanished, replaced by the live feed again. The same angle, the same view, but now it was slightly different. The hallway outside my apartment door was no longer empty. Something stood there. My lungs seized. My vision tunneled. A person, or something shaped like a person, stood directly in front of my door, facing inward. It was tall. Too tall. Shoulders rigid, posture perfectly straight. The lighting in my hallway was dim, so the figure was mostly silhouette, a column of black with long arms and an elongated neck. No facial features visible, just a single, unbroken shadow absorbing the hallway around it. Its right hand was pressed flat against the door, and slowly, very slowly, it slid its palm downward, dragging over the wood, matching the scraping sound I'd heard. My whole body felt ice cold. I forced myself not to move. On the TV, the figure leaned closer to the door. Closer. Its head angled down as if sniffing along the baseboard. My real door remained silent, utterly still. Then the figure's head snapped upward. Not gradually. Not humanly. It jerked like a glitch in a video feed. It was staring directly at the camera. At me. Through the screen. My stomach twisted so violently I nearly gagged, but I swallowed it down, gripping the carpet fibers until my fingers hurt. Then the figure's head tilted in a slow, unnatural arc. Not to the side. Backward. As if it were trying to listen behind the camera. The feed crackled. The screen glitched, distorting the image for a second. When it cleared, the figure was gone. Vanished. My heart hammered a steady, painful rhythm against my ribs. I slowly reached up and turned the TV volume down to 0. No sound. No accidental noise. Nothing to draw attention. I waited. 1 second. A faint shift of weight on the hallway floor just outside. Not on the screen. In real life. A slow drag. A breath. Like someone leaning their full weight against the other side of the door. I stared at the handle, terrified it would turn. But it didn't. Not even a tremble. My phone buzzed softly in my lap. I jumped, nearly dropping it. Another message from Riley. It found me first. Don't talk. Don't move. Even if it knocks again. Another message followed instantly, like he was typing in a panic. Whatever you do, Adrian, don't answer it. No matter what it says. My chest tightened so hard it ached. Another knock. But this time, it wasn't slow. It was soft. Gentle. Too gentle. Like a small hand. And then, a voice. The girl's. Quiet. Fragile. Familiar. On the other side of my door. Adrian? My heart stopped. That voice. Not the tall figure. Not the older version. The smaller one. The child. The same tiny voice from the broadcast all those years ago. She spoke again, slightly louder. This. My whole body trembled. The voice was perfect. Perfect in a way no imitation could be. But the broadcast had told me not to open the door. The warning text had told me not to open the door. Riley told me not to open the door. But she sounded so real. So scared. So human. Help me, she whispered. 3 soft knocks. The same as before. But this time, the voice broke on the last word. Please. I shut my eyes. And didn't move. I kept my eyes shut until the pressure in my head became unbearable. My heart hammered so hard it felt like it was vibrating my ribs. Every instinct I had was screaming at me, some urging me to run, some whispering to hide, and one small, awful voice telling me to open the door because the girl sounded like she needed help. But I stayed still. Completely still. The air felt thick and cold, like the room had dropped a few degrees in the past minute. My breath fogged faintly in front of me. I didn't dare exhale too loudly. Outside the door, she shifted. I heard the soft brush of fabric, or maybe skin, against the wood. Then a small inhale, shaky and fragile. Please? My hands clenched into fists at my sides. Not because I believed it was her, but because part of me wanted to. I wanted there to be some rational explanation for all of this. A person. A trapped girl. Someone needing help. But the other part of me, the part that had grown up with this broadcast, the part that remembered her staring through the screen years ago, knew better. Something about the way she spoke wasn't right. The timing. The tone. Every sentence ended with the exact same tremble, like it wasn't emotion but repetition. Like a recorded pattern someone had memorized. A perfect imitation that didn't understand how fear actually sounded. Silence settled again. I slowly opened my eyes. The TV still showed nothing. Black screen, no text, no feed. But faint static hissed softly through the speakers, so quiet it might have been white noise if I didn't know better. I waited. 5 seconds. 10. 15. A new sound. Wrong. Not a voice. Not a knock. A scrape, long and slow, dragged across the entire length of the door from bottom to top. It vibrated the wood ever so slightly. The kind of sound that made every nerve in your body recoil because nothing human makes that sound on purpose. I backed up further, inching around the side of the couch until I had a clearer view of the gap beneath the door. Just a thin slice of shadow. Nothing moved there. Then my phone buzzed again. It lit up across the room where I dropped it on the carpet, screen glowing like a beacon in the dim light. A new message. From Riley. It's going to try your name next. My chest tightened. Before I could even pick up the phone, another message arrived. Don't respond. Don't speak. Not even a whisper. If it hears you, it knows exactly where you are in the room. The scrape stopped suddenly. Then silence. A voice spoke again. Not the girl. Not the tall shadow. Something else entirely. A low murmur pressed against the other side of the door, like someone speaking through cupped hands directly into the wood. I couldn't understand the words. They sounded warped, stretched, like English passed through water. Then the voice sharpened, clear enough to slice through the room. Adrian. Every hair on my arms lifted. That wasn't the girl's voice. It wasn't Riley. It wasn't any voice I knew. It was deep, cold, hollow in a way that didn't belong in a human throat. Another breath. Adrian. Open. Just that. 2 simple words. My lungs locked. I didn't dare shift my weight. The voice lingered like a chill, as if it were waiting for any sign I'd obey. Then quietly, the door handle turned. This time, it wasn't on the TV. It was real. Metal shifting in slow, measured increments. The locked deadbolt held it in place, but I could hear the pressure, the force behind the movement. Someone, or something, was testing it again. Then the voice behind the door softened, lowering into a tone almost conversational. "Let us in." A second voice joined it. A smaller one. The girl. Whispering, "Please." I bit down on the inside of my cheek until I tasted copper. I had to stay quiet, completely silent. Then a loud vibration rattled the TV screen. A high-pitched tone, like a signal breaking through interference. The black screen began to brighten in pulses. The door handle stopped moving. The voices stopped. The hallway outside went silent. I held my breath. Then the TV snapped back into a feed. The camera angle wasn't from inside my apartment anymore. The image showed an underground corridor, dim lights, concrete walls, pipes overhead. The same hallway I'd seen earlier. But the camera was moving now. Jittery. Like someone was running. At the far end of the corridor, something flickered. A shape. The person? The camera jerked side to side. Whoever held it seemed terrified. They reached a turn in the hallway and swung hard left. The corridor ahead was darker, shadows stretching long across the floor. The camera's breath sounded ragged, panicked. Then the lens caught it. A door. With metal. Flaking paint. Numbers stenciled on it. 12B. The same door from earlier. A loud crack echoed through the speakers, like something slamming against concrete behind the camera. The view jolted violently. The person holding it sprinted the last few feet and grabbed the handle of the 12B door. But they yanked it again. Still locked. The camera swung frantically down the hallway behind them. Something was there. A silhouette. Thin. Shoulders brushing the pipes overhead as it walked. Its movements were slow but deliberate, each step too smooth, too controlled. The person holding the camera let out a choked breath and slammed their shoulder into the 12B door again. But they hit it again. Still locked. The tall figure tilted its head. Slow. Mechanical. Then the camera whipped back toward the 12B door just as it clicked, the lock shifting. The door cracked open. A small hand reached out from the gap. A child's hand. The same uneven hair. The same tiny wrist. The girl. She whispered something breathless, urgent, but the feed distorted so badly I couldn't hear the words. She reached further, pulled the camera holder inside. The screen went white. For a moment, then a single message appeared. Stay away from doors. The TV powered off. And then, the softest possible sound behind me. A floorboard bending. Except I didn't have floorboards. Something was inside the apartment. I didn't turn around at first. I couldn't. My body refused. Every nerve felt sharp and electric, like even breathing wrong might give away my position. The sound I'd heard wasn't loud, just a soft shift of weight somewhere behind me, but in an apartment with no floorboards, with a concrete slab under vinyl, it meant one thing. Something was standing where nothing should be. I forced myself to breathe through my nose, keeping my chest still, my jaw locked. Slowly, inch by inch, I lowered myself behind the arm of the couch, crouching down until I was almost level with the floor. Heart pounding, pulse aching in my ears, I leaned just enough to see the reflection on the black TV screen. The screen acted like a faint mirror in the dim room. Not detailed, not sharp, just shapes. My own silhouette crouched near the couch. And behind me, another shape. Unmoving, pressed near the corner of the room between the kitchen doorway and the hall. A cold wave rolled through my stomach so hard I thought I might pass out. It wasn't fully clear, just a darker blotch in the reflection, but tall enough to touch the ceiling. The proportions were wrong in a way I couldn't explain. Too long in the arms. Too narrow in the shoulders. A stretched shadow. I didn't blink. Didn't dare. If it had gotten inside silently, it could move silently. If it could move silently, I would never hear it coming. I swallowed the panic building in my throat and peeked lower, barely a millimeter more. The reflection shifted just enough that I saw something else. A faint glimmer near the base of the shape. Like a sheen of moisture on the vinyl floor. It wasn't dripping. It wasn't moving. Just glistening, like condensation around something cold. My phone vibrated again in my hand. I nearly jolted but covered the screen with my palm before it lit up completely. I carefully angled it behind my knee to shield the glow and peeked at the message. Riley, if it got inside, do not run. Do not go to the door. Hide. Quiet. Another fast message. Does it see you? I didn't dare reply. Even the taps on the screen might be enough sound. Instead, I held my breath as the shape shifted, not moving its position, just its weight. Like it breathed in. A soft, low creak echoed from that corner. Not from wood. From the walls. A pressure. Like the air changed around it. I closed my eyes for half a second and steadied myself. I needed a plan. I needed to move without making noise, and without drawing attention. The couch blocked direct line of sight from the corner. If I slid along the floor toward the bedroom doorway, staying low, I might get behind the bed, or reach the closet, or... The shape moved. Only a fraction. A tilt of the head. A slow pivot toward me. My breath caught so abruptly I almost choked. I stayed frozen, every muscle trembling, willing myself to become smaller. Quieter. Invisible. The shape didn't advance. It just watched. Or listened. I couldn't tell. Then something unexpected happened. The TV flickered. Not fully on, just a faint, pulsing glow like it was receiving a signal again. The reflection changed as the brightness rose. The shape behind me sharpened just a little more in the screen's surface. Still featureless. Still unnaturally tall. But now it was clear that its head, or whatever structure should have been a head, was angled toward the TV, not toward me. It was distracted. A tiny window of opportunity. My lungs squeezed tight. I lowered my weight onto my palms, sliding inch by inch across the floor behind the couch. Each movement controlled. Every muscle slow. I kept my shoes off the floor, letting only my socks touch the vinyl. My thigh brushed against the back of the couch fabric, faintly, but the sound was muffled enough that I hoped it wouldn't notice. The shape didn't react. The TV's static brightened again, bringing a soft hum that filled the room like background interference. It was enough to mask small sounds. I continued. Slow. Quiet. I reached the narrow gap behind the couch, then slid my body sideways until I was completely hidden from the shape's direct line of sight. My elbows burned from the pressure, but I kept moving. My breathing was shallow, fast, too loud in my ears, but I didn't let out a single sound. Once I was far enough behind the couch, I angled toward the hallway leading to my bedroom. The lights were off back there, making it a dark tunnel. Or safer. Halfway into the hallway, I felt a vibration in the floor through my palms. One step, heavy. From the living room. The shape had moved. Or shifted. I pressed myself flat. Completely flat. Another vibration. Another step. Slow. Measured. Coming closer. I clamped my eyes shut and stayed still. My phone vibrated again in my pocket. I almost cursed it out loud. I dug my hand in as slowly as possible, gripping the device tight to keep it from buzzing against the floor. I forced the sound against my palm, muffling it. The screen lit up, casting a faint glow through my fingers. A message preview. Don't hide near corners. Another vibration. It searches corners. My blood ran cold. The shape's footsteps, or whatever equivalent it had, pressed softly against the vinyl. Its steps didn't sound like a person's. They didn't have the heel-to-toe rhythm. It was more like weight shifting downward in pulses, as if it wasn't lifting its feet at all. I held my breath until my lungs hurt. The pressure in the hallway increased. Not warmth, not cold, just density, like the air was being pushed aside. A sound, not from the shape, from the TV. A voice. The girl's voice. Urgent. Adrian. The shape froze, then turned toward the TV. The moment it moved away from the hall, I slid backward like my life depended on it. Because it did. Inch after desperate inch, I retreated into the darkness of the bedroom doorway. I crossed the threshold, keeping low, and pulled myself behind the bed, disappearing into the shadowed corner beside the nightstand. Breath shallow, body shaking, and then, from the living room, a loud, sudden snap, like something hitting the TV. Then silence, then a low, rumbling exhale, too heavy to be human. Adrian. Not her voice. Its voice. Inside my apartment. The way it said my name wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. It had a weight to it, a presence that seeped through the walls and the dark like humidity. I felt the sound more than heard it, a vibration under my ribs, behind my ears. My hands trembled uncontrollably, so I pressed them into the carpet fibers, letting the roughness keep me anchored. I didn't answer, didn't breathe, didn't move. The bedroom felt impossibly small. The shadows felt too close. I pressed my shoulder against the frame of the nightstand, trying to hide the shape of my body as much as possible. The only light was the thin strip of glow from the living room, barely reaching the carpet at the threshold. I listened. It was still in the apartment. Too close. A shift of weight, a soft drag, then something that sounded like fingertips brushing along the wall as it moved. Slow. Exploring. Searching. The scrape traveled across the living room wall, pausing every few seconds. Each time it stopped, I swear the air thickened, like it was listening for breath, for heartbeat, for anything alive. The scrape came closer. My blood iced over instantly. It was moving down the hall, toward the bedroom. My choking breath struggled against my throat. I pressed a hand over my mouth, quietly, gently, the heel of my palm blocking every exhale. I sank further down behind the bed frame, curling tight, shrinking into the smallest shape I could make. The first faint vibration reached me, a soft thud traveling through the floor. It had reached the hallway entrance. I couldn't see it yet. I didn't want to. The shadow on the floor grew longer, stretching into the room. A warped silhouette cast by the hallway light behind it. And its shape wasn't right. Too tall, too narrow, too segmented, like its upper body moved separately from its lower body. The second step came. A deeper vibration. It was inside the hallway. I bit the inside of my cheek until I tasted blood. Anything to keep silent. Anything to force my lungs to slow. The shadow grew sharper. Then I saw it, not the creature itself, but its hand. A long, dark shape sliding along the doorframe, the outline soft-edged and distorted like smoke behind glass. Fingers too long. Tips that brushed the wall like they were feeling it. My entire body locked. Don't move. Don't breathe. Don't exist. The hand slid further, gripping the edge of the doorway with slow, curling pressure. The rest of the body drifted into the doorway. It didn't walk. Not like a person. Its shoulders entered first, high and narrow, then its torso unrolled behind it like it was unfolding itself into the room. It paused there, half inside, half out, its head angled down the hallway, toward the living room, as if checking something. Then that long, narrow head turned slowly, too slowly, toward the bedroom. "Adrian," it whispered again, but now the sound was different. Not deep, not monstrous. A perfect imitation. The child's voice. The tiny, frightened one from before. "Adrian, I'm scared." I shook my head once, just barely, trying to clear the panic fog from my thoughts. Riley's warning burned into my mind like fire. "It's not her." The shape stepped further inside. The bedroom carpet compressed under its weight, leaving no footprint, just a soft dent in the fibers that rose back up too quickly, like it hadn't actually stepped on it, only pressed near it. The TV turned on in the living room again. A loud crackle of static blasted through the apartment. The creature jolted. Its head snapped toward the sound with unnatural sharpness. The static grew louder, pulsing like interference, like something fighting for signal. The creature leaned back out of the bedroom doorway, its long arms brushing the walls, leaving faint indentations. The static surged. Then a voice cut through it. "Adrian, don't move." Not the girl's voice. Not the creature's voice. Riley. Not yelling. Not panicked. Commanding. The creature froze mid-step, as if the sound pinned it in place. Then the TV flickered to another feed. A hallway. The door marked 12B. The image was jittery, like a handheld camera barely being controlled. The girl stepped into frame. The older version, the one who looked 20. She was crying. Silent, desperate tears streaking her face, but her movements were fast, deliberate. She pressed both palms to the door marked 12B and mouthed something directly into the camera. Her lips formed 3 words. I leaned in. Caught them. "Don't let it." Static swallowed the feed again. The creature reacted violently. It jerked backward, slamming its elongated arm against the hallway wall, making the drywall bend inward like rubber. A low, broken rumble escaped it. Frustration? Pain? Anger? I couldn't tell. The air pressure in the room shifted again, heavy enough that my ears popped. The creature moved. It lunged down the hallway toward the TV. Its body didn't bend, didn't turn. It just propelled forward in one impossible, smooth motion, like a frame skipping in a video. A crash shook the apartment. The TV fell. Glass shattered. The static cut out instantly. Then another sound, deeper, more guttural, echoed in the living room. Something between a growl and a mechanical grind. Silence. I didn't move. Not after 10 seconds. Not after 30. Not after a full minute. The quiet was worse than the noise. It meant the creature was either gone or waiting. Finally, I crawled an inch toward the bedroom door frame and peeked out. The living room was darker. The TV lay smashed on the floor. The apartment looked warped, the shadows wrong. The air felt thin. The hallway was empty. I waited. Then another vibration traveled through the floor. Not from the hallway. Not from the living room. From somewhere deeper. Somewhere beneath the apartment. A slow, resonant thud. Then another. Something knocked from inside the vent beneath my bed. The knock from inside the vent wasn't loud. That almost made it worse. It was soft, precise, like someone tapping gently to test if I was close. I recoiled backward so hard my shoulder hit the nightstand. The lamp rattled. I clamped both hands over my mouth, terrified the creature, or whatever version of it remained in the apartment, had heard. The pause. Then one more, soft, almost apologetic. I stared at the vent under the bed. A rectangular metal grill, maybe 8 inches tall, screwed into the drywall. It led to the main circulation system that ran through the building, not large enough for any real person to crawl through. Not large enough for anything human. The silence that followed was somehow worse. My heartbeat thumped so hard it felt like it was pushing sound into the room. I lowered myself flat on the floor, inch by inch, and eased forward until I could peek beneath the bed. The vent was dark. Just a void. No movement. No flicker. No gleam of an eye. Just darkness. Then the voice spoke again. Not the shadow's voice. Not the deep, hollow imitation. Not the girl's soft whisper. This one sounded human. Older. Hoarse. Adrian, it whispered from inside the duct. Listen to me. I nearly choked. It wasn't calling like the creature had. It wasn't mimicking the girl. It wasn't cold and wrong. It sounded like Riley, but strained, pushed through metal and distance. I froze, body locked tight. He whispered again, quieter. Don't talk. Just listen. My hands trembled uncontrollably. I don't know how long I can use this line, he said. It doesn't like the ventilation. It can't reach through. Not all the way. My throat tightened. I wanted to speak, to answer, to ask what was happening. But his earlier warnings echoed in my mind. Don't speak. Don't respond. Don't let it hear you. I stayed silent. Good, he whispered as if he could hear my restraint. I'm going to explain fast. I pressed my ear closer, breath shallow. Whatever is in your apartment, it's the same thing I've been dealing with all day. His voice shook on the last word. It follows the signal. It follows the broadcast. It follows attention. My eyes snapped to the smash TV in the living room. It doesn't come through doors, he said. It comes through openings, weak spots, vents. It finds the places we don't think about. Another soft thump traveled through the floor, not from my apartment this time, but somewhere deeper in the building. The thing was moving, not close, not far, just elsewhere. Hear me carefully, Riley whispered. The show, the broadcast, it's not a message. It's a map, a warning. All these years, we thought it was weird, random, creepy. But it was showing us the weak points, the places it can enter. My stomach nodded. The concrete room, the hallway, the door labeled 12B, the bare bolt, the girl staring into the camera. Pieces snapped together in a way that made my skin crawl. It's been testing for years, Riley said, trying different ways through, different signals, different lures. And today, his breath hitched. Today something changed. A low hum vibrated through the vent, like something brushing along the metal further down. Riley's voice dropped even lower. Don't open any door. Don't speak. Don't. The vent rattled. Violently. Something struck the other side of the duct, not near my room, but somewhere deeper in the line. A heavy impact that shook dust loose from under the bed. Riley gasped, voice tight with panic. It's in the system. Another metallic slam. Adrian. The duct reverberated, a deep electric growl buzzing through the vents like feedback. It heard me. A louder impact cut him off completely. The metal buckled slightly. The vents thudded in rapid succession, something traveling through them fast. Coming toward my room. I scrambled backward, breath shaking uncontrollably. The bed frame hit my shoulder. My foot slipped against the carpet. The walls seemed to tilt. The vents roared with motion. Not an animal, not a machine. Just force and speed and something dragging itself through narrow spaces. I pushed myself into the corner of the room, behind the dresser, squeezing into a wedge barely big enough for my body. The vent grill under the bed rattled hard. Silence. A single breath. Then a voice, not deep, not imitated, the girl's voice. Adrian, open. I didn't move. The grill bulged outward, then snapped back, then bulged again, harder. Dust sprayed into the air. My pulse hammered so fast I couldn't feel individual beats. The vent bent inward, caving under pressure. Not prying from within. Pressing. like something was trying to force its way out of the duct. The drywall cracked along the edge. I pressed myself deeper into the corner, trying to vanish into the seam between dresser and wall. The vent grill bent again, then stopped. Everything went silent. A long, awful silence that lasted so long I began trembling with delayed shock. Footsteps. In the hallway. Real ones. Heavy. Measured. Coming back toward the bedroom. Not in the vents now. Not behind the walls. In the apartment. I held my breath until my lungs burned. The footsteps stopped at the doorway. Waited. A soft exhale. Too close. Too aware. My phone vibrated, the screen lighting up inside my fist with a dull glow. I slowly turned it just enough to read the notification without letting the light leak. A single message. From an unknown number. Not Riley. Not saved. Just numbers. Stop watching. A second message arrived immediately. ID only moves when you pay attention. A third. Do not look at it. I shut my eyes tight. My heart hammered so hard I felt it in my fingertips. A final message appeared. We're coming to get you. Stay still. No signature. No name. Just that. And behind my eyelids, even in the darkness, I felt it, the presence in the doorway shifting closer. Hovering over the room. Waiting for the smallest mistake. I didn't breathe. Didn't flinch. Didn't open my eyes. I just stayed still. Silent. Blank. The last thing I heard before everything went completely quiet was a soft sound beside my ear. A whisper so faint I thought it came from inside my own head. Today. And then, nothing. No footsteps. No scraping. No voices. Just the empty hum of an apartment gone still. And I haven't opened my eyes since.